to me, it's just like, isn't the goal still to compete? Like, I understand they've been in a soft rebuild the past 2 seasons, but you got all the offensive pieces on offense in place. Like TJ Watt in his prime, Cam Hayward at the very, very tail end of his prime. He's hanging on for dear life, fighting Father Time. Minkah Fitzpatrick in his prime. Why are you not trying to win right now? I can't understand the logic behind it. I really can't.
I don't either. I think that I look at it, and this is a good transition into the next thing, is that I think that they somehow in their heads believe that 2023 is like a significant jump with everything that they just, I think that Tomlin, and again, I like you, I don't believe that it was just a Tomlin decision, but I think Tomlin had his hand in there. I think Rooney had his hand in there. I think Omar Khan had his hand in there. And I think all of them somehow believe or have slightly convinced themselves that it was the talent level that has held back Matt Canada the last 2 years, not Matt Canada. That it was his inability to work with Ben Roethlisberger, and then they blame that on Ben Roethlisberger because he had to retire, and he's made it pretty known that he wanted to come back, and that, he wasn't really accepted to come back. I would imagine Matt Canada played a role in that. And then this year it was, oh, well, you have a rookie quarterback, and before that you had a quarterback that you couldn't rely on. It's a new group, new offensive line. Your running back was hurt most of the season. You got new wide receivers. Your defense was starting to click late in the season. Like, I think that they look at the whole grand scheme of things, and in their heads, they're going, well, 2023 should be significantly better. What I don't think that they get is that you don't get significantly better in the NFL unless you make moves. That's how that works. Nobody just gradually becomes this phenomenal group of football players overnight. Not in the NFL, and like you said, it is a soft rebuild. I get it. But why would you not want to top that soft rebuild off with a play caller that you're like, well, this guy's definitely going to win? Like, it's not like it might win. It's like, oh, this guy could definitely win for us instead of some question marks. I look at this, and I might have a theory that you might not agree with, but I think the Matt Canada decision, just like I talked about, means that there are going to be almost no changes to this offense in 2023. I would expect Dan Moore to be the starting left tackle, Kevin Dotson to be the starting left guard. I think that they're going to look at the group and just say, well, we'll give it one more year and see what happens, which is a total waste of time. But I think that's how they view this situation.
Yeah. Just one more thing, because I thought about this before we hopped on. One more thing. There's this idea out there that, like, the Steelers don't want to necessarily stunt Kenny Pickett's like growth over the second half of the season.
Just the worst theory.
Because of Matt Canada. Okay, here's the deal. We talked about this every week on this show. Did Kenny Pickett play better in the second half of the season? Absolutely. And there was natural progression with, his development. And I absolutely think that that's, worth noting. And you can give Canada some credit for that. 100%. But we're talking about a post-bye improvement of 6.4 yards per attempt, 5 touchdowns, 1 pick, an 84 passer rating. The underlying metrics are definitely better than that. And I think that the film says he was a little bit better than that too. But let's not act like he was out here just lighting the world on fire. I mean, the offense was what it was, and it was consistent enough to sustain drives and stay on the field and milk clock. But they still weren't overly productive. And like, there's this idea too that, well, like, if you put him with a new play caller, he's guaranteed to regress. We have a gazillion like examples of that not being the case. I'll give you one notable one. Okay. And then recently we can look at Trevor Lawrence from this past season. Lawrence was, I know Lawrence, I'd say this all the time. Lawrence is a different level of prospect than Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter.
Lawrence had a historically bad rookie year. Under a really bad coaching staff. What happens this season? They go out, they get Doug Peterson. Boom. All right. He takes off. Lawrence already a top 10 quarterback in the league. You look at guys, even like maybe in the same tier of prospect as Kenny Pickett, Daniel Jones. They go out, they get Brian Daboll. They go out and get Mike Kafka. Those guys are going to be in the running for getting Coach of the Year awards. Jones has taken noticeable improvement to the point where he's probably going to get a contract and get paid a little bit this offseason. Yep. And then you look at other guys like in the past, Jared Goff. So Jared Goff has a historically bad rookie season under John Fassel. They come in the next season. Sean McVay comes out, and I know everybody's gonna say, "Well, you won't get a Sean McVay level guy because you got Mike Tomlin." I'm not saying anything about the head coach. McVay had a ton of influence on Goff's career, but you look at the assistants that are on that staff: Zach Taylor, current Bengals coach. You look at their offensive coordinator, Matt LaFleur, current Packers coach.
Yep.
There is a path to constructing a good coaching staff around a young quarterback that can aid in their development. And the Steelers are not doing that. So I obviously have made my thoughts on Kenny's ceiling, and has been one of my bigger concerns about where this is going to go long term. But I think that they are doing him a huge disservice settling for this sort of environment. And that's all I'll say about it. Because we're going to end up, here's what's going to happen. We're going to end up in the same situation next offseason. Everybody going to say, we got to move on. We got to get better. They're going to move on. And then everybody's going to say, well, this is a transition year for Pickett. He's got a new offensive coordinator,
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. The inevitable.
You're delaying the inevitable. That's exactly what you're doing. And just to touch on your points there about, first the defense. Yeah, you could say, oh, well, yeah, the offense was holding on to the ball. They were scoring more points. They were winning games. Yeah, that is very true. They also weren't giving up 30 points, 24 points, 38 points, 35 points, 37 points. The defense played significantly better in that second stretch. The talent that they played was also not as good in that second stretch. Terrible talent in that second stretch. Kenny Pickett did play better, but the offense didn't look good until the last drive of the game every single time. Outside of Najee Harris, that's not what you're looking for. And you're spot on. I think that, and maybe I'm wrong here, but I think that to a degree, Mike Tomlin and Rooney and them are not looking for a superstar offensive coordinator because they don't want to lose it. That they want somebody who will be here for 5 to 10 years instead of somebody that'll be here for 1 to 2 years and then leave, and then they have to do it all over again. And they realize that Canada will never get a head coaching job, so that he could stay here, and he's a candidate to be a long-term offensive coordinator.